This is Plant-Based Briefing. Underage workers, millions of dollars, and trucks full of dead chickens inside the business of killing in response to bird flu. Part 3 by John McCracken at investigatemidwest.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And this article was longer than that, so it's a three-parter. Go back and listen to parts 1 and 2 first if you haven't already, and then jump back here for part 3. And now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. In some cases, the backlog has caused companies to use more controversial methods of depopulation because they do not have the equipment or labor on hand to complete the killings in the needed timeframe. Hugentogler said he was aware of turkey farms that used less appropriate methods when they couldn't access the federal contracts in time. He noted an example where a turkey farm used ventilation shutdown and heat, referred to in the industry as VSD+, to depopulate a flock of commercial poultry. VSD+ is a controversial method of killing animals, but is currently accepted by industry standards set by the American Veterinary Medical Association. The USDA and the AVMA note that VSD+ is to be used only in constrained circumstances, but the majority of birds killed during the ongoing outbreak have been killed using ventilation shutdown. Workers close off the circulation of air and seal entrances to barns with ventilation shutdown, oftentimes adding extra heating units to increase the temperature. Ultimately, the goal is to have the production system and the state veterinarian agree on what is best for both the production system and animal welfare, Hugentogler said. We are depopulating the animal regardless, but until they're unconscious, we should still take as much care for them as possible. Utah State veterinarian Amanda Price told Investigate Midwest that the state was able to receive help from the federal contractor Patriot Environmental Services when requested, but some instances were delayed by a few days. This resulted in farms using ventilation shutdown in an effort to stay within target timeframes meant to prevent virus spread. Crystal Heath, a California-based veterinarian and co-founder of Our Honor, a nonprofit group of veterinarian members that advocate against using ventilation shutdowns in the U.S., said that ventilation shutdown is a cruel method to kill flocks. The practice is banned in the European Union and has been criticized for its cruelty to animals in both commercial pork and poultry depopulation. If producers are going to get bailout money, they should put plans in place to depopulate with less cruel methods, Heath said. The American Veterinary Medical Association is currently reviewing proposals to update its depopulation guidance and is expected to announce changes later this year. The AVMA did not respond to a request for comment. McDonald's egg supplier kills millions of birds in Michigan with VSD+. Once a farm has depopulated its flock, the work isn't over. Carcasses, feed, eggs, manure, and other organic materials are gathered and composted or disposed of, a process that requires a fleet of equipment and workers. Michigan, a state with 31 confirmed cases of bird flu in dairy cattle herds, has had 16 commercial poultry farms infected with bird flu since 2022, with more than 7 million birds killed. Most birds killed in Michigan were at egg-laying commercial farms using the ventilation shutdown method, according to USDA data. Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, MDARD, isn't going to discuss details about the responses done on individual farms, as most of that information is protected by Michigan law, MDARD Director Tim Boring said in a statement provided to Investigate Midwest in response to questions about the use of ventilation shutdown. At every facility, we are balancing multiple priorities, including but not limited to stopping the spread of the disease, animal welfare, practicality given the structure, and of course safety of the people involved, the statement continued. Documents obtained through records requests from the Michigan Department of Agriculture show Herbruck's Poultry Ranch, the state's largest egg producer and supplier of eggs to McDonald's, disposing of dozens of dump trucks filled with chickens by the day during a depopulation that occurred in April 2024. Records referred to Herbruck trucks hauling carcasses to be composted at an outbreak site named 1002, which is a reference to Iona 02. This was the site of an April 2022 depopulation event that killed 2.1 million egg-laying chickens. Herbruck's used ventilation shutdown to kill the flock based on USDA depopulation data and references to renting and using heaters made in the daily logs filled out by staff on site. Daily worker logs described days where 55 loads of dead chickens and other material were hauled off the farms to be composted or sent to a landfill. Contracted environmental waste companies, composting companies, labor and disinfecting crews hauled dead birds and contaminated materials to nearby landfills, as well as composted the dead carcasses. Composting the bodies of birds infected with bird flu is a common practice in disposal and requires all organic material to reach an internal temperature of at least 130 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 days in order to kill the virus and other pathogens. Contaminated feed, manure, bodies, eggs, and other waste are stacked into large mounds, monitored for internal temperatures, and eventually spread back onto land as fertilization. Herbruck, which received $89 million in indemnity payments for the flocks killed by VSD+, was part of fast food giant McDonald's push for cage-free eggs and the decision to prioritize the health and welfare of the animals, according to a 2024 company press release. Herbruck announced it was laying off hundreds of workers in Michigan a month after its 2024 bird flu outbreak. Mohamed Musu, Herbruck vice president, declined to answer questions about the company's depopulation events and bird flu outbreaks. In an email, Musa said the company does not have a media contact and is trying to move on. You just listened to Underage Workers, Millions of Dollars, and Trucks Full of Dead Chickens, Inside the Business of Killing in Response to Bird Flu, Part 3 by John McCracken at investigatemidwest.org, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. And as always, I put a link to the original post in the show notes, so you can check that out if you want to see some graphs and some additional information supporting the content of this article. And I've done a number of other episodes about avian flu or bird flu. I will link a couple in the show notes that you might be interested in. Episodes 991 and 992, How U.S. Taxpayers Bailed Out the Poultry Industry and Helped Entrench Avian Flu. 973, Why Big Meat Has an Ugly Human Rights Problem. 831, U.S. Farm Workers Advocates Calls for Greater Protections as Bird Flu Spreads. 785, Bird Flu Infects Dairy Cows and Farm Worker in the U.S. 728, When Tyson Depopulates Chickens, Taxpayers Are Left Footing the Bill. 476, Censorship Concerns and Veterinary Profession Should Not Condone Killing Animals by Heat Stroke, or VSD+. And 393, The Use of Chickens in Agricultural Research, An Eye-Opening Look at Unspeakable Cruelty. This last one talks about the research behind depopulation methods, finding the cheapest and most effective way to kill all these infected animals en masse. So feel free to check those out and tune in next week. I've got a great article from Dr. Michael Greger at Nutrition Facts about bird flu, how it emerged, what the dangers are, preventive measures, and how to eat to beat it. He has a background in infectious disease and public health, with a specific focus on zoonotic diseases, which are infectious diseases transmitted from animals to humans. He's an expert in this field, and he's written a book, How to Survive a Pandemic, Overcoming COVID-19 and Preventing the Next Deadly Outbreak. And like all of his books, 100% of the proceeds are donated to charity. So look for that next week, and please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.